Yo, what's up? My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother, and this is for all my dogs. I say that because, Drake's latest album, and as he usually does, a craze and a frenzy amongst the waves of media brought about by the response to the project, which feels right now to be an overwhelming disappointment amongst many fans. There's people who are kind of rating it from mid to bad. I haven't seen a lot of people who regard it as exceptional. At the very most, I've seen people put it at the standard of an average Drake album. Nobody's been raving about this as a phenomenal work of art that pushes Drake's catalog to new frontiers. So it's basically been the narrative of an artist who somehow stuck. This is the overwhelming conclusion. Fans, critics, devotees alike all feel that Aubrey Drake Graham has reached a place of despondency and maybe at the very worst complacency. It's like umjita akazazi ba uzawuyapi after this. Well, matter of fact, not even after, in this period of his artistic journey. And Joe Budden, famous, rapper turned music critic, went to criticize Drake's lack of maturity, saying essentially that the fundamental reason that this album sucks is that Drake persistently tries to address issues, to hop on songs, to adopt the flows of artists who are way under his range of age. And what that does is that for the first time, Drake is actually visibly the old guy. And I mean, this is a tangent that we've explored on the Headspace before, and it's this idea that because we are at the end of the millennial era, artists who were the fundamental staple of that era, I'm talking about Kendrick, Drake, and Cole for the United States, and coming to a country like South Africa, you have artists like the Questas, the KOs, the Nasty C's, Casper Vest, aka Bless His Soul. Who am I missing? Takeza. Well, essentially the bulk of South Africa's rap scene is mostly millennials in the era of like the mid to the 2010s, onwards into like the early 2020s. What this has done is that we are in the era of...
It's nice to see a millennial.
He isn't, but because he blew up with millennials.
Oh yeah.
He was ushered in that era, but he still got more room to grow beyond it.
Yeah.
But my point is that we've spoken about just the conundrum of the millennial era and what it's doing to certain artists based on their position. Drake particularly being a millennial, and the fact that, he's now, he's the old guy in the room, he's the old guy in the club, he is the artist who now cannot instantaneously access today's youth culture and therefore appropriates, tries to adapt and tries to do it in a way that's true to him. But unfortunately, the gaping hole is so wide that it's visible at this point. We saw signs of this through projects like Certified Lover Boy and what ensued after that. Drake is an artist who is characteristically and classically pop. And what I mean by that is that his career has always taken a forward-leaning approach to trying to cater to the latest trends. And if you look at how he's done that, the development of the OVO machine with every artist that he has signed has been an elaborate plot of his to take younger artists and try to understand how he can integrate himself into a particular sound scope. Be it the emerging era of the trap soul, be it trap in and of itself, when he released If You're Reading This Is Too Late, thereby employing the writing skills of Quentin Miller, which classically led to the Meek Mill and Pusha T beefs, which were really the only kink in Drake's armor. This criticism of his credibility as a writer, because he had now been exposed to be using teams of writers. And I mean, how he emerged through that unscathed is because Drake was always more pop than he was classical rap. So even though he could always spit hot bars, his music always catered to the base of the club, the mood of branding and capitalist aspiration in a way that is mass marketed. And Drake's secret weapon, I feel, is the fact that he is the first rap artist who spoke to the female gaze in their language. Rappers before Drake spoke about women, but I feel that Drake is the first rapper who spoke to women. Challenge me on that. I mean, many would say, LL Cool J's had love songs, such and such of a rappers have. I mean, they've all written about women the way a man would. Girl, when I see your waist, I want to touch your ass and all of that. It's the objectification of the feminine body through the male gaze. It's what a dude would say when he'd look at the woman of his dreams. But where Drake is different is that he writes in a way that factors in the aspirations and the wishes that women have of the men that they desire. Drake wrote to the palette of the feminine gaze. The heartbreak Drake persona, which evolved into the certified lover boy persona, was built on the fact that never has there been a rapper who could write for women, who could write in a way that sounded as if it was spoken through women. When Drake says, you fancy her, nails done, everything done, he speaks in a way that celebrates a woman's aspiration to become the kind of beauty standard she wants to be. He compliments that. And not in a way that is trying to kind of like cash in on the quality of what a woman wants, but he's genuinely appreciating the place in which a woman is operating from. And I think this is what set him apart instantaneously, and why women continue to be his fundamental fan base. Drake is kind of like a bitch whisperer. He understands how to say things in a way that makes women feel understood, makes women feel embraced and acknowledged by men. And believe it or not, most rap has not done that. Rappers have not written about women in a way that makes them feel understood. Hardly. Unless those women are their mothers and their sisters and their daughters. But hardly have rappers written about women they desire in a way that factors those women as people, not just conquests. And I mean, Drake doesn't hide the fact that he wants you, girl. But his first step is to acknowledge that you are a person, and therefore your consent, your perceptions of him are as important as his perceptions of you. And so this is where the conversation of Drake becomes different from any other rapper. And where I think a lot of the flack from men comes in. The accusations of being soft and feminine is because Drake opened up a portal where a man could be vulnerable. He cries about his exes. He ruminates about girls who tricked him, who cheated on him. He's open about the fact that as a man, he doesn't always have the upper hand. That's not even his point. He's just trying to find somebody who can understand his terms and share something that's exciting for as long as it can be exciting. That's Drake. He's never hid the fact that he's not ready for commitment, but he's never also hidden the fact that he falls in love with some of his side chick. He misses some of his exes. There's important things that women have taught him in his life that he'll never forget that have made him who he is. There are ways of approaching music, art, life that remind him of women he shared special moments with. And no rapper has ever done that. No rapper has ever admitted, no man has ever admitted in the context of rap and hip hop the role that women have played in molding his own character on a deeper level. So give Drake some fucking props. And this is why for me, he is super fundamentally important. He shifts the dynamic of the male to female relation in the rap conversation. What else does he do? Drake is from Canada. He's a former child star whose mother is a white Jewish woman, whose father is a black former musician from Houston, Texas. He is the coming together of worlds that would be regarded as polar opposite. He is the image of what a rapper did not want to be, and yet he is the most successful rapper of our time. He has whiteness in his genes. He grew up in privilege. Or to quote Drake, he's far from heard but understands the streets. This is somebody who's never shied away from the story of the fact that they do not come from the ghetto like most classical rappers. Their blackness is different because they come from a country which has a diverse immigrant population where the way it creolizes culture is more openly diverse than America, which kind of rigidly stamps these stereotypes and creates lines between which stereotypes fit under white or black. He comes from a place where he's done a little bit of acting as a kid, which doesn't amount to a story that says that I've had to struggle in order to get here like most. I mean, everybody has their struggle, but the extent and magnitude of most artists is literally scrounging in places where wealth was seen as impossible to being right in the forefront of fame. Whereas Drake was in a place that had closer proximity to opportunity. You know, he's told us about his aunt that funded a lot of his conquests and gave him her car in order to drive to places he needed to go. He's pretty much kept the same friends for all of his career. What I'm getting at is, here is an artist who has broken through every wall that was put before him that made it impossible to be a successful rapper, and yet he succeeded as a rapper. Nobody can do that unless they're authentic. In other words, nobody can do that unless they understand and are self-aware of who they are and what they need to do in order to navigate these boundaries and constraints. So that first chapter was appreciating the history of Drake as he's come. So now I want us to get to the middle point, the limbo. Drake's struggles in developing as a rapper. Let's get into it. A key focal part of Drake's success was also being seen as the mentee of one of the most influential rappers of that time. Many would say one of the most influential rappers, period. The most, influential rapper to many, Lil Wayne. So the Young Money affiliation comes at a time where Young Money's at its peak. He releases Thank Me Later to an audience that is now accustomed to the sound, and he brings a level of sophistication and ambiance through his right-hand man 40, and together they sculpt this quote-unquote progressive minimalist sound that's empty and filled with soft drums and an ambient sound that just echoes and feels like a trance more than a club. But together they sculpt this sound and it goes to places that transgress and transcend where rap has been before. So every other artist is forced to now play by the rules set by Aubrey Drake Graham. He changes the way hooks are written. He changes the way rap is approached. He elevates what was set by Kanye West of breaking rap outside of the gangster mold, and he goes deeper by understanding how to talk to women. He's practically unbeatable at this point. What happens is that, what do you do when you're at the echelon of everything that rap has ever wanted to become? Transcendent, popular, diverse, feminine, sensitive, gangster, aggressive, male. Drake is all of these things sprinkled in measurable doses. He has songs where you can tap into a boom bap quality that would make any fan of the classical rap structure go ooh and ah with his punchlines. He knows how to sculpt a club banger that would make Future to Jay-Z envious. He knows how to take musical risks that inspire even a Kanye West. This is an artist who's literally inspired his peers, his legends, and beefed with some of his legends. Shout out to Common, rest in peace to Common, I should say. But somebody who has weathered every storm that the cultural frequency has brought upon him. What more did he have to do? After that, he took the charge to officially becoming pop. And when I say officially, I mean he opens up his writing team. He understands that he's no longer bound to the same rules that other rappers are bound by. Now, he's no longer competing with a Jay-Z. He's competing with a Beyonce, Jay's wife. So, whereas Hove would rather sit in the studio and sculpt the verse, Beyonce has teams of people who help her understand the dynamics of what she represents. Enter the era of Drake the pop star. Drake who reaches the records that are tantamount to the Beatles and Michael Jackson, James Brown. The Drake who's mentioned in that same vein. This Drake is now trapped in a place where they follow musical trend as it goes. So as Afrobeat goes, he tries to navigate there. As the grunge drill sound goes, he tries to navigate there. And I think at this point in time, he was still doing it comfortably enough for us to feel that he was there. But now, he's in an era where he's just too old to fit in. He can't sound like he blends in anymore. And all millennial rappers reach this level. If you blew up, you will inevitably reach your fade out. This is Drake's fade out. And by fade out, I don't mean to fizzle into oblivion. I mean strategizing how you conclude your legacy. Because you are now in the phase of your career where you are no longer going to be the most popular artist. You're just too old. Your audience has grown with you. Your audience has matured with you. Coming into Joe Budden's critique, be more mature. Heck man, I never thought I'd say this, but I agree with Joe. Kendrick Lamar chose to take a direction of continuously retreating into self-reflection. And that is why, as much as he, through his cousin Keem, will adapt a lot of the younger features, he does it in a context where he speaks as an older brother now. J. Cole, same thing. He still rides with the youth, but from 3 albums ago, J. Cole decided to adopt the role of an older brother, speaking almost above the younger generation, trying to give them advice, trying to speak on their dangerous habits, trying to speak on the recklessness of younger artists and cautioning them as an artist who's gone first. Drake, on the other hand, has never been like Kendrick, of going deep within, reflecting on his own inadequacies and vulnerabilities on a level of the political stance of society. And he's never been like Cole, of trying to be somebody's older brother and saying, watch out. He's just always trying to be at the same level with these artists. But now, he can't pass off as that. Because whether he likes it or not, he is the older brother. And there's gonna come a time where you might be reluctant to, but the only thing that the youth expect from you is a certain level of guidance. Not the coordinates to the next party. The youth are going to expect a certain level of reflection about the way the culture is most likely to treat them. Not you trying to challenge them. And here we are, with Drake still challenging artists, with Drake still trying to find out where the hoes at. Hoes which are at this point probably questionably younger than he is. And this is what is strangely unattractive about Drake's music now. The songs haven't become any less infectious. The music hasn't become any less good. The artist has just now become more and more inauthentic. And because of that, everything just feels off. So ultimately, his clapback by brandishing Joe Budden a failure and measuring Budden's success according to his own capitalist success as a rapper with all of his wealth, literally dissing everything from Joe Budden's equipment to the clothes that he wears
to his
house. It's just a reflection of how Drake does not get the point of what success is. That he's chased the high horse of the upper echelon of pop music, that now he feels like a Joe Budden who in his prime as a rapper was not even the same kind of rapper as Drake. So mind you, when Joe Budden was doing Pump It Up, he was not even trying to be mainstream pop. Because he was, even in his time, he was being outnumbered and dominated by artists who had bigger budgets, who had bigger landscapes and a profile that way towered over his. He was trying to get by, make it, fit in. And in the time of some of the most lethal lyricists, he survived long enough to become part of a supergroup that was formed by Eminem. Joe Budden made moves that allowed him to continuously eat and survive. And that is success. Not everybody is going to be a multi-millionaire. Not everybody is going to have all the luxury cars. So this argument that Drake has that the only reason Joe Budden continuously critiques him is because he's not in his level of commerce is lazy and disappointingly petty from an artist who I think reads deeper into things than that. What I feel is Drake's career has been marked by consistent hate from the beginning. All of these qualities that I mentioned of him not being the natural choice for rap success have been reasons that people have always hung over his continuous legacy. I mean, I would even go as far as saying Drake might be the most consistently hated on rap artist of all time, while simultaneously being the most successful. His success has come by breaking the mold of classical black hypermasculine structures, breaking the mold of standards of how to look as a rapper, how to dress, how to talk. He was literally humiliated by many a legend and a peer for his whole career. So I think the kind of response he gives now is the expression of the frustration of feeling like he's never had a break. Unlike his peers, Kendrick and Cole, he's never had a moment where he's felt that the whole of hip-hop accepts him. Cole was once called corny. but through connecting with legends like Nas and being part of some of the most classical hip-hop moments, many a legend and a fan regards, even the naysayers, regard Cole's place in hip-hop as ultra important. And it's key because Cole also has a white mother, like Drake, and yet he gets none of this racial flack. Kendrick, who, looking at the two opponents, chose a more incendiary, politically slanted direction, has always been embraced by the ghetto and the suburb alike. So if there's one from the millennial three who's not only had to bear the weight of the success but the hate that comes with it, it's Drake. So I understand Drake's response of resisting the critique, but for the first time I feel like this critique is valid. And more than that, this critique is essential to him defining his fade out in a way that's really going to dignify the path that he's had. So ultimately, I think Drake has two choices. He learns how to stop chasing the clout of youth and finds out who he is when he makes music that is now about where he is in life sonically and doesn't try to acclimatize to youth culture. Or he continues to do that and poke holes at the integrity that he's built for most of his career. So he could be like the fighter that knows when to retire while they're still strong, or he could be like the fighter that stays in the ring long enough to be beaten by everybody. This is an important lesson because it factors into how capitalism allows artists to develop, or doesn't allow them to develop. Many have said rap is a young man's sport, when in reality that's more pop music, and because of that Drake can no longer be pop. So what is Drake when he's too old to be pop? That's the ultimate question. I hope you have the answers. And this is what we're about, engaging with the questions of our times. Peace.